After dropping the atomic bombs on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, and Nagasaki on August 9, 1945, the war with Japan, after almost 6 years of brutal fighting, finally came to a conclusion on September 2, 1945. Many things may be said about the best and most determined soldiers from World War II, especially among the Japanese. Their devotion to duty, the emperor, and strict military discipline are legendary, and some Japanese soldiers carried that devotion and dedication to extremes. Why did Japanese soldiers like Hiroo Onoda and Teruo Nakamura resist and hold out for so long? How did they manage to survive all that time isolated and without resupply? What were their lives like after they finally emerged from the jungle decades later?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former soldier, Marine Corps Scout Sniper, history professor, historian, and book author. And we will answer these questions and other issues on this segment of Forgotten History.
Lieutenant Hiroo Onoda was born on March 19, 1922 in Kainan, Wakayama, Japan. Onoda joined the Japanese Army in 1942 and was selected for specialized training at the Nagano School. This was Japan's primary training center for military intelligence operations. As a student, Onoda studied infantry tactics, guerrilla warfare, literature, philosophy, history, martial arts, propaganda, and covert operations. His training and practical application would be his greatest allies for many years to come. In his autobiography, No Surrender, My 30-Year War, he detailed how, when American forces landed on Lubang Island, a small strategic island 93 miles southwest of Manila Bay, he and his men went on operations. February 28, 1945 saw his commanding officer, Major Yoshimi Taniguchi, give Onoda and his 3 men their orders. Stand and fight until relieved. It may take 3 years, it may take 5, but whatever happens will come back for you. Onoda saluted and acknowledged without knowing that it would be 29 years before he was relieved of command. Onoda and the 3 enlisted men melted into the jungles on Lubang Island, where they engaged in guerrilla warfare. They continued attacking small units with hit-and-run tactics and gathering intelligence against the locals, whom they believed were working with the Americans. When Japan surrendered in September 1945, Onoda, when he learned of it, like many other Japanese soldiers, refused to believe it. Leaflets were dropped in Japanese telling any stragglers that the war was over. In an interview with ABC News many years ago, Onoda explained why he did not believe it. Quote, "The leaflets they dropped were filled with mistakes, so I judged that it was a plot by the Americans." End quote. The 4 men surviving did so off bananas, coconuts, occasional wild game, and rice stolen from nearby villages. Onoda and his men continued to believe that they were at war, sometimes engaging in short battles with local residents and soldiers. Over time, due to the long-running engagements, long after the war was over, some 30 more islanders had tragically been killed. One of the 3 enlisted men surrendered to Filipino forces in 1950. One was killed in 1954 by police officers hunting the bandits down, and another was also shot and killed in 1972, also by island police officers searching for the renegades. The locals knew that they had a Japanese soldier or more on the loose, as the man who surrendered in 1950 gave the authorities all their information. The news even made it back to Japan. On February 20th, 1974, a Japanese student named Norio Suzuki picked up on the story and went to Lubang Island in search of Onoda. He lived in a tent in the jungle, calling his name with a loudspeaker until Onoda finally emerged from hiding. Previous excursions had Japanese officials with loudspeakers roaming the jungle calling his name and telling him the same thing. Suzuki informed Onoda that all that had transpired was amazing, that the war had long been over and that his family was still waiting for him. Onoda said that while all of this may be true, he could only be relieved by a superior officer, and he wanted proof. Following this contact, Suzuki managed to contact the government and Onoda's last commanding officer, Major Taniguchi. Along with an official delegation, they all went to Lubang to convince Onoda that the war was in fact over and that he could turn home to Japan with honor. Onoda, recognizing the voice, finally came out of hiding and met his CO, whom he had last seen almost 30 years earlier. On March 9, 1974, Onoda, still wearing his Imperial Japanese uniform, surrendered to Filipino authorities and surrendered his rifle and sword. The people wanted him placed on trial for a variety of crimes, including theft and murder, but in a gesture of understanding and reconciliation, he was pardoned by President Ferdinand Marcos. He would not be punished for any crimes committed by his men or himself while still believing he was at war. When was asked why he did this and what he thought about all those years of living in the jungle, believing the war was still raging, he simply said, quote, "Nothing but accomplishing my duty." Then the 52-year-old Onoda returned to a Japan that was totally different, an entirely different world from the one he remembered. The new technology stunned him, and the culture had drastically changed. Although he was welcomed back home and heralded as a national hero who upheld the finest traditions of the Bushido code and the military, Onoda found adjusting difficult. He became world famous, a living legend really, and was considered the epitome of tradition and discipline. However, in 1976, he moved to a predominantly Japanese colony in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and bought a cattle ranch. While there, he met and married Machi Onuku, a Japanese tea ceremony teacher. Onoda later returned to Lubang and donated $10,000 to build a school, his conciliatory measure. In 1984, the couple returned to Japan, founding the Onoda Nature School, where he taught Japanese youth survival skills. They periodically moved back and forth between Japan and Brazil due to the cattle business. Hiroo Onoda died of heart failure due to complications from pneumonia at St. Luke's International Hospital in 2014. He was 91 years old. Following Hiroo Onoda, Teruo Nakamura was indeed the last Japanese soldier to surrender. Born in 1919 on Formosa, he was drafted while under Japanese occupation. However, Nakamura, unlike Onoda, was not Japanese, but Taiwanese, and a member of the Ami tribe on what used to be Formosa. His real name was Atun Palalim. The Japanese had changed his name for military service. He was assigned to the Takasago Volunteer Unit of the Imperial Japanese Army in November 1943 and stationed on Morotai Island in the Japanese-occupied Dutch East Indies. He arrived shortly before the Allies invaded and recaptured the island in September of 1944 at the Battle of Morotai. He was officially declared dead in March 1945. He survived on Morotai with the other survivors, who did not actively engage with the locals. They simply survived in isolation until the end of 1956, when Nakamura left and built his own camp, which was not discovered until 1974. When asked his reason for leaving the other soldiers, Nakamura said that they tried to kill him. However, his statement was challenged and refuted by 3 of the other soldiers who had been discovered in the 1950s. Soon, all alone, Nakamura lived for 30 years in the jungle and became friends with a local man named Baikoli, who brought him tea, coffee, food, and other items. Before Baikoli died, he ensured that his son would continue helping Nakamura. However, Baikoli's son then reported Nakamura's location to the Indonesian Air Force staff, who went searching for him singing the Japanese national anthem, the Kimi Gai O, while carrying the Japanese and Indonesian flags. When found, Nakamura was in his hut, which was surrounded by wooden fences and stakes as security in a garden that he had planted for food. Unlike Onoda, who still thought he was fighting the war and acted accordingly, Nakamura did not fight the locals and just decided to hide out peacefully until his fortunes changed, still thinking the war was going on and he would be joined by others. Nakamura was captured and dressed in an Indonesian Air Force uniform, but he was not restrained. He was taken off the island by boat, and when the word spread that there was a Japanese soldier living among them, it shocked the locals. They had no idea. At Morotai Air Base, Nakamura had a complete physical, and he was found to be in excellent condition despite being there for 30 years. Nakamura was then handed over to the Japanese embassy upon arrival in Jakarta, Indonesia, but because he was considered Taiwanese and not Japanese, and Formosa no longer existed, he had no country of origin. Although the Japanese embassy offered to repatriate him, there was also a diplomatic issue of some importance as to how to treat him should he wish to return to Taiwan. In addition, the official Japanese position was that since he was not Japanese, he was not a citizen despite having been a Japanese subject and drafted into their army, he was unworthy of receiving compensation. As a gesture, they offered Teruo a small pension, some money, which provoked protests from the public. Remember that just a few months earlier, Hiroo Onoda had been returned and treated much better, and the world press demanded that Nakamura be compensated the same as Onoda and others. Eventually, he received the same compensation that had led to the demands from the public in Taiwan as well as in Japan, because he had also fought for Japan. Nakamura himself wanted to be sent back to Taiwan directly, where he reunited with his wife and lived peacefully until he died of lung cancer on June 15, 1979. To honor Teruo Nakamura, although a former enemy who had been hiding out there for 30 years, the Morotai Island Regency government honored him and established the Teruo Nakamura Monument in Dehelgia Village, North Maluku Province. Rest in peace.
We hope you enjoyed this segment of Forgotten History. Please click like and subscribe for free. And please stay tuned and be engaged and informed. Send us comments if you have questions or even show ideas, and we will respond to all requests and comments as soon as we can. Thank you.